All right, welcome everybody. It's Doug here with the LincolnList.com. This is the stock market weekly review for the very first day in June. May is now behind us. So if you're looking at your trading right now and you're struggling, you're having a hard time, you're falling behind, or you're just not where you think you need to be right now, take a moment, visit the LincolnList.com, take a 14-day free trial to our live trade room, and see for yourself if our educational format can get you to that next level. We'll start out talking about the SPY, and maybe going forward in these weekly recaps, I'm going to stop really talking about the overall SPY as a market gauge, because you will sometimes see down days, but every stock that's on a watch list is green, or vice versa. The SPY is going up and there's a bunch of stocks in the red. Things are moving so independently right now, and certain sectors, when they get hot, it's just traders are just like vultures all around these things and won't let them go. So it's more about sector rotation right now than anything else. If you're in the right sector under the right blanket, you're most likely going to have a really good trade. We'll kind of take a look at it here, at least this week as opposed to the last couple of weeks. We saw a touch of volatility, a couple of triple digit days, actually about three of them in a row, where we had a nice triple digit down day, followed by an up day, followed Friday by another down day. Had this trend line drawn from the last week's session, and it's just kind of parked right on there. And I've been saying, unless we really start to close underneath of this 50 moving average here on a daily chart, I wouldn't start to think that we might even see a sell-off, because what this market has done religiously, at least over the last couple of years, is every single time it pulled back a day or two, there was always an immediate rally. And I think if you were looking for a deeper correction, some days certainly it will be there. We have to test some of these other levels down here at 206 and more importantly 204 before we can really look at possibly a deeper correction. But one of the first signs would be the lack of interest in buying the dip. So far, that trade has paid off well for the people that's been taking it for the last 3 years. So until they get shaken out, or till they decide, hey, that's no longer a good trade because I'm starting to lose on that idea, then we might see a pullback. Other than that, we'll just play it day by day as we always do. As I mentioned, though, you're going to see a lot of stocks that are running independently of the market. One of those is this KANG. I think we've got a few days here that we can work with. You got a nice four-day run. Now, that's not the most parabolic stock I ever seen in terms of what you're looking at here with the chart. Definitely looks nice and parabolic. But price-wise, I mean, it's only about $3. So there's a lack of range in here. And if you're day trading, this might pose a little bit of a problem. There's earnings obviously coming up here within a couple of days. I wouldn't want to hold through that. But if there's some way that this stock could just spike a little bit more, you got a nice gap up here on Friday and only a small fade. If there's some way that you can get a little bit closer towards this 22 area, working off of some of these resistance numbers that take us back to August, I think that would be a good trade setup. And this particular stock, with this pattern, that's the only trade I'm looking at. If that doesn't work out, there's no way I would short it, because I've mentioned so many times in these videos that you see a lot of gap downs or a lot of early morning flushes only to have these things come snapping back. That old short trap right there in the morning. So kind of keep your eyes on it. As I said, it's a wild card. There's a lot of other stocks I've been talking about all week long. I'm not going to continue to talk about, like SHAC, AVGO, OVAS, OVAS, ADXS. All of these stocks are still in play, but this KANG is something I want to start adding in here to the watch list. Now, another one is this ISIS. Give me a second here to type it in. There we go. Sorry about that. I had to find it. It's been that kind of a day. Now, a lot of these have been run. We saw a lot of movement out of Kite. We saw a pretty big move out of Juno. And when you look at this daily chart, this is kind of what's drawing my attention here a little bit, is this nice little flag that it's setting up. It would have done a little bit better, in my opinion, if you wouldn't have had such a late day pull. I mean, it's a pretty deep pull late in the day. It just comes right down into resistance. But this was definitely a little deeper than you'd probably like to see. You probably wanted to see that hold the intraday 50-day moving average, the 50-day moving average on the intraday 5-minute chart up here. Most likely would have liked to seen that displaying some of its strength. Right now, you just got chopped. You're just chopping back and forth. you're chopping. You've got a lot of breakouts and a lot of anticipation of this 68.57 at this daily chart down bottom. But each and every time it's getting rejected, it comes back up, it's getting rejected. At some point, one of these levels are going to break. You're either going to lose this lower area, under here, which is 66.12. That's right now the 10 moving average on the daily chart, or this 68.50 that I talked about right up in here. So you're in a really tight range, still holding the majority of this May 20th bullish breakout here, but that's also resistance back here in April. So you're dealing with a delicate area. The reason I'm bringing it up is if in fact this takes off strong. Maybe it's not something that you see on a Monday or a Tuesday. Maybe it happens a little bit later in the week. But if and when, or by chance, this thing breaks that 68.50, I think this would be a long trade. You have so many opportunities up there that if you break that with conviction and volume, it would lead me to believe that this stock would want to go up a lot higher. Now, that's a big if. It's always a possibility it starts losing the 10 moving average, and then you just might see it drift into the 64s down here connecting with VWAPs and some of these other longer-term moving averages. That might be the case. And for some of you out there, you might even want to entertain a short if it really looks like a solid breakdown. So this is a trade that could go both ways. I'm kind of thinking maybe bullish. There's a lot of these in the sector. As I said, you saw Kite, you saw Juno have some really big days. This has had some breakouts, but it hasn't really had that big day. And you're really, really close to some resistance. So if in fact it could do that, I think you could be looking at a really big, strong day that carries you somewhere up into the mid-70s. A big if, but that's why we prepare. Because if the if happens, we are ready for the if, and we don't miss the if. If it never does happen, well, we'll find something else that is moving. So ISIS, kind of like this one here too. Last, I'm going to throw in ESI. I'm not going to really clutter up this watch going into the week. So many things are happening. It's always you can almost guarantee now in the market, if there are guarantees, there's going to be the flavor of the day. A cheap stock that's just going balls out. I mean, every day. I'm not even going to mention the names because there's so many of them. You're starting back from PTBI, you had Gene, you had, of course, VLTC. You've had so many of these things. And it seems like every day there's a new one. Now, some of these are able, we talked about before, they're able to build strong and go 2, maybe 3 days and really start squeezing shorts and put in these epic moves, VLTC like. And then you get some, some turds. Now, they're probably all technically, I'm not trying to hurt anyone's feelings, but they're probably all turds anyway because they're down here in single digits for a reason. And once they get going, they're easily manipulated, so they can really squeeze the accounts and blow people up. And I think you've kind of seen that. PBMD, another one as well. But having just kind of ranted there a little bit, which means nothing whatsoever what ESI does, because it's completely independent of all the stocks prior to it. Big bounce. I'm interested. All I'm going to say is I'm interested to see what happens next. If, in fact, you can start moving upwards, parabolic morning, strength early, run up to the whole number of 5, you're going to attract me as a shorter. I'm going to want to be in that play. If it's really stingy, you get a couple of pullbacks down into some of these support areas from late Friday, 420, 410, and you have a really solid base built there, and it looks like it's going to flush, but it continues to pop, then you might convince me that this is a long. I'll be open to either way because what we're seeing a lot of times is a lot of people see these cheap stocks. They say, cheap stock, pile of crap, I'm going to short it. And in theory, you're probably going to end up being right if you can stay solvent long enough because some of these things are going to run 150% before everyone's done manipulating them, whether they're crap or not. And you kind of always have, that's really the essence of trading anyway. If you try to think about logic as a trader and use logic and stuff that makes sense, it's like being in a relationship with someone. If you try to make sense of it, you're not going to because it doesn't make sense. Stocks that aren't worth crap go up. Stocks that are worth billions go down. Stuff, the news is translated in so many different kind of languages. People look at it and there's all kinds of different translations. So you just never know. I know I'm ranting on a little bit further, but the point is this could go either way. I think if we start going up to 5 big old paras, I'm a short seller of this stock. If it starts to bend down in here and you start to get some pickups, some buys, you see aggressive shorts coming in there trying to push this down and it won't push down, then I'm most likely going to be a buyer of a stock like this. So I'm going to leave it at that because It doesn't matter what I'm saying right now. We get up on Monday, we have no idea what we're going to see. Nobody can tell you that. We have some ideas. We want to put some ideas together and we want to be ready, but we also have to train and study and work on our progress and process as a trader, because a lot of the trades that you will take in your career will be on a moment's notice. You won't have time to screw around with trying to figure out why is it up, why is it down. You're just going to have to judge the price action. That's why we use these charts. So if you're having trouble with that and you're trying to eliminate your biases and you're trying to say, hey man, I need to change as a trader, again, visit the lincolnlist.com, take the 14-day free trial. It doesn't cost you anything. I can't promise you riches, but I will promise you, you will learn something. I guarantee it. So on that note, you guys have a great June. Hope you had a good May. As always, reach out to me, service at thelincolnlist.com for any of your trading questions. Take care of yourself and have a good month.